In this lesson, we're going to work on a cool country blues piece in drop D tuning. Premium members have access to bonus lesson materials, including a slow note-for-note tutorial, interactive tab player, along with over 50 step-by-step courses to help you play better blues. Become a member at the link in the description. But now, let's get on with the lesson. First things first, we got to make sure we're in drop D tuning. I'm in standard tuning now, so we've got a D on the 4th string. We're going to use that as our reference pitch, and we're going to take the 6th string into D. Now the 6th string is an octave lower than the 4th string, but that D on the 4th string gives you the reference pitch that you need to tune. Now that we're tuned to drop D, let's revisit the first part at full speed, and I'll come back and break it down at a slower pace. Alright, notice a couple things. I'm doing a lot of 5-4, 5-4 alternating bass with the thumb taking care of string 5, which is open, and string 4, which is open, all while I'm holding down a D chord here. For the most part, that's going to be home base for this entire composition. We'll move out of it a little bit as we move forward. But for right now, think D on the fretboard. That's your frame of reference for all of the picking that's happening here. And also notice that with the picking, I'm really just using my thumb and my index finger just to remind us that we can accomplish a whole lot with just 2 fingers when it comes to finger picking. We don't need to have, you know, a thumb and 3-finger picking approach, which is normally what I do. But I'm changing it up here just to remind us that really any style of picking can get the job done. You're more focused on the notes. So what we're going to do is start stepping through the bars, starting with this slide. Remember I said we're thinking D here, but take that down a fret, kind of hover over a D shape just so you're ready, because we're going to pinch with the bass in the 1st string, which is now flattened out to the F note on the 1st fret. Right? And we're going to slide up, then we're going to play the bass, and then we're going to pluck the 2nd string with the chord, right? So that's a D note there. And then we're going to pluck the bass again, open 2nd string, bass again, D again. So what we have for the first measure is this. Alright, and then we're going to continue that into the next measure with bass, bass, which you can push through and catch the 3rd string and the 2nd string with the chord with your thumb. That's totally cool. But then we're going to pinch with the F sharp and the open 6th string. This is the first time where we're bringing on that low growling D note. And I did that intentionally just to kind of delay that growl, you know, that really low tone. But if you really want to get that that drop D sound happening, you could totally do a 6-4 alternating bass throughout pretty much all of this piece. But back to what we're doing here. So that wraps up the 2nd measure. Then we repeat it, very similar to what we did before. Actually identical for that measure, but we finish it very slightly different. We're not going to use the 5-4, 6-4 bass like we did in part 2. We're going to go 6-4, 6-4. And we're also not going to pitch that F sharp. So here's what the 2nd little phrase sounds like. So we're just bringing in the low 6th string a little bit sooner, and we're not pinching with that F sharp. That F sharp kind of sets us up to come back home to the D note. Well, what we're going to do is just hang on that D note at the end of the 2nd round. So this is what you have when you put these together. repeat that in the arrangement before sliding up the fretboard into this D major chord shape. This is a D major triad. We've got the D, the F sharp, and the A. And it sounds really good over our 6-string open. Really, we can kind of push through 6, 5, and even 4 if we want to get all the way through it and just get a big sound happening from the guitar. So once we have that shape in mind and on the fretboard, let's put it to use. We're going to slide up from our D shape into that chord, into that D major triad. And that's the only move we're going to do over this. We're going to reach up and put the little finger down on the B note. That's the 7th fret on the 1st string, just to get something happening in the melody. But this really sounds quite nice. You can really push through all 6 strings here. It sounds great. Before moving back down into our D and kind of finishing this the same way we did before. Let's do it again. Now here, we're going to change the way we end this. All right, let's take a closer look at that over our G. All right, so what we're doing is a 5-4, 5-4 alternating bass here with this melody on top. Right, so that's pulling off from the 1st fret to the open 1st string, back to the 1st fret, giving that real cool G7 over B. I say it's over B because there's B, it's in the bass, right? G7 over B. Now, when I play that D, I'm going to want to play that, at least for me, it's really comfortable, more comfortable, I guess, to play that with the little finger, right? Rather than stretching out and playing it here. That can be kind of a difficult move, but if that works for you, go for it. For me, just having that little finger, which is kind of hovering over the 3rd fret area anyway, is what I'm going to play that with before going back to the, let's see, open 1st string and then home in our D chord. And then just kind of basing out right here. So we basically have this sliding D part as the setup, and then we finish it differently as we move through the bars. That's the first one. Let's take a tour through the 2nd finish, which is the G we just covered. All right, and then now the 3rd time around, we revisit a D, and then the 4th, something special. We move into this long A. We've got that B ringing, and we slide into this A chord here before working down back to our G and repeating that lick that we've done already. Thanks for checking out this lesson. If you dig it, give me a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and if you want to go deeper, consider joining BGI at the link right over here. We get to work on acoustic blues, and you can do it with a plan that's helped thousands of pickers. I'll see you in the next lesson. Until then, practice smart and play on.